Yo, what is up, everybody? It's boy Soda here with the Autumn Windbags, back with another one. All right, RJ's on a plane to China right now. He doesn't even know what's going on. This came across my phone, and I'm like, you know what? I gotta hop on. I gotta talk to my people. I gotta let them know what's going on. So, just read I believe, the Superior Court of Nevada ruled that John Gruden cannot sue the NFL. Now, there was a motion by the NFL, NFL and Roger Goodell. So you guys been living under a rock. John Gruden alleges that the NFL and Roger Goodell, along with some others, colluded to release some emails that John Gruden was sending back and forth to people in the Washington football, at the time, Washington football Redskins and Washington football team that were racist, misogynistic, all this other stuff, right? And because of that, because of the leaked emails, that cost the NFL and Roger Goodell personally to put a lot of pressure on Mark Davis to do, quote unquote, do something, which we all know what that was. He wanted Mark Davis to fire John Gruden, but in actuality, after a discussion, John Gruden ended up resigning. All right. The NFL filed a motion saying, per the rules of the NFL, the NFL is not like a public company or anything like that. Okay, they're private. They're privately owned. They're owned by the owners themselves. So they can pretty much make their own rules. Now, those rules, if they are against, they're not non-constitutional, right? Unconstitutional rules, then yeah, they can't do them. But the NFL filed a motion stating, per the bylaws in the NFL, John Gruden cannot sue, even though currently, right now, he doesn't. He cannot sue the NFL because what happened during what he alleges happened when he was either working for or in conjunction with the NFL, which was he was at ESPN, which had a contract with the NFL. So he can't sue the NFL. He can't sue Roger Goodell personally. Now, this is just a preliminary ruling. What the ruling was is that John Gruden needs to go through arbitration. So what arbitration is basically is an arbiter, right? Which is like, yeah, Gruden got, yeah, he certainly did. There's an arbiter, right? And basically, it's almost like a mediator or like a go between. And this side makes a case, this side makes a case, and the arbiter kind of like puts everything into account. What happened, what could have happened, what more than likely happened, puts a dollar amount on things. What can take a lot of that dollar amount away are rules, bylaws, things like that. So a court ruling that Gruden must go through arbitration severely affects a monetary compensation potential awarded to John Gruden, because though that kind of all gets thrown in the mix. If there was no rules or whatever, and John Gruden went to arbitration, he probably would have gotten a lot more, or the potential to get a lot more in a settlement. It's a big deal. It's a big deal because unless this hurdle is overcome by Gruden and his lawyers, it's probably not going to be a big settlement either way. So that's the latest. So where do we go from here? Okay. The issue that John Gruden and his lawyers are going to run into is the NFL. I believe the NFL is going to live longer than any of its owners or the people that are involved or anything like that. I think the NFL is going to live longer than that. So the NFL can fight this much longer than John Gruden can. Now, John Gruden's got some dough, right? But the NFL is going to be able to fight this a lot longer than John Gruden can. All they have to do is win these little. Is this a win for eternity? Like for, as long as the case? No, the case is not closed, right? But it just puts up more obstacles for John Gruden and his legal team to jump over to jump through in order to be able to get what they want, which is really all they want is the discovery phase or the threat of a discovery phase. That is really all that John Gruden needs. John Gruden and his lawyers, if they get a a, a a lawsuit to the discovery phase, that opens the books on everything, right? So what that's going to do is that's going to force, not allow, not suggest, it's going to force everybody involved with the investigation under the that the Redskins at the time, Washington football team, were under investigation for. Anybody involved, any depositions, everyone's going to be under oath. Everyone has to tell the truth. They're part of what happened. Now, if all this stickiness, all this kind of greasiness comes out, it's going to funnel up towards one person, and that's Roger Goodell. So this is the important thing: is the NFL was scrambling, and they're scrambling not even to get this because NFL doesn't care. The NFL is like, you know what, John Gruden, if we give you $100 million, would you just go away? The NFL would totally do that because they have the money and they don't really care. They just don't want to go through the discovery phase. Because once we go through a discovery phase, I mean, Roger Goodell is screwed. If they go through a discovery phase, people are going to talk because there's a lot of these people that were a part of this whole, I mean, what Gruden alleges was a witch hunt, and this stuff just came up. Now, as far as covering up and all this other stuff, yeah, the NFL can get their own people to cover stuff up and non-disclosure agreements and all that stuff, right? So for right now, that's the big hurdle. And Archie and I have talked about this. The big hurdle for John Gruden and his lawyers is the discovery phase. And that is what the NFL is fighting so feverishly to not go into. Because once they're in discovery phase, it's a lot more difficult to argue your way out of the discovery phase if you're already in it, right? Because then what the court's going to say is, well, we're telling you to give us this stuff. If you don't want to give this stuff, like, I mean, there's time frames and extensions and things like that, right? Which is fine. That's just going to delay the inevitable. What's going to happen sooner or later if this case goes into discovery is the judge or the courts are going to say, look, you have to give us something, and you have to give us something on a schedule. We understand there was 750,000 emails, right? We understand that, okay? So give us, by date, give us these chunks of information while John Gruden and his team go through depositions and deposing all the people that they want to depose who were involved, quote unquote, involved in this cover up. It's not a death blow. It's just another annoyance by the NFL to John Gruden and his legal team. Dixon Sider. It's a great name and a great picture. It would be even better if your face was photoshopped on that picture. People really thought the NFL would lose this lawsuit. Laugh my ass off. Well, they haven't won the lawsuit. All that it's not. This is not dismissed, and this is a really big distinction here. It's not like case dismissed. Like, no, the court ruled like, okay, you have a case, but you need to go through this avenue to get the case resolved. That's what the court is saying. And this is not something that's set in stone where it has to happen. John Gruden and his team can always file more motions, go to a higher court to get this changed. This is good lawyering by the NFL, basically. The NFL doesn't care about losing this case as far as settling it. As far if you think losing the case would be paying a lot of money, they don't care about that. Okay, they don't want to have to basically just open the books, just take the cover, take the cover off the stew and let all the ingredients out. They don't want that. Okay, and what this does is it slows down and it kind of murkies the water as to, are they going to have to do that? Most of these cases, like I mean, I don't want to name any cases because there's been a lot, but most of these cases they get settled right before discovery starts. So when the court rules, okay, you had all your motions, all this other stuff, blah blah blah, right? The court rules there will be a discovery phase. Then the person who's being sued is like, all right, let's settle, because I don't want all this stuff getting out. Because not only is stuff going to get out about this, stuff's going to get out about a lot of other things. That's mostly what happens. So this is kind of like what's going on right now. I don't want now. It could very well be that Gruden makes a side deal with the NFL or someone or whoever. I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they won't, but it's possible where Gruden just says, you know what, do X, Y, Z, and I'll just drop the whole thing. It's possible. Not probable, but it's possible. Okay. Um, it's also possible that Gruden and his lawyers file, their own motion, and they appeal to a higher court, and they lose. Basically, they could take this all the way up into the Supreme Court, the highest court we have. They could take it to the Supreme Court of the United States. What we need to focus on is that is the clear cut ending of what's happening here. It's not just like, oh, well, he has to go through arbitration. That's what he has to do. That's not the case. So when we hear, oh, well, court ruling Gruden can't sue, it's not court ruling Gruden is screwed. It's a lot more hurdles for Gruden and his team to jump over. All right. Oh, now. Well, thank you very much. I just trimmed the sides a little bit and letting the front grow a little. I kind of dig it. Look, I'm not trying to say I'm a handsome man, but I don't think I'm ugly. I've been getting a lot more attention with this beard, bro. And I'm not just talking like Diaz and aunts and uncles, man, whatever, uncles too. I like attention. But like younger girls, and I'm just like, woo, this ain't half bad. Maybe it's the greater gear. I don't know. But anyway, back on topic. Uh, let's see what we got to say here. M85, more money for lawyers, in other words. Well, I mean, as long as this thing drags out time wise, there's going to be more lawyers, right? Uh, STEM T, Goodell did an O sheet reading of Brock Bowers at the podium, like, oh no, what did we do? Huh? I don't get it. Sorry, man, I didn't get it. Maybe it's me. STEM T, I feel like Goodell was told Washington, you have to draft Jaden Daniels, and told Atlanta, you have to draft Michael Penix Jr. or lose a pick for tampering with Cousins. And I think we outsmarted them by drafting Bowers. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that I'm going to go on record. I've gone on record, and I've gone on record multiple times, and I've said that Roger Goodell is a slimy piece of 3-day stepped on dog shit. That's who I think he is. But that's who he was hired to be. He was hired to be this phony guy who is all about, the fans and all about blah, blah, blah. That he's all about money. That's what he's about. He's about protecting the shield. And that's okay. I don't fault him for being that person. What I fault him for is fighting so hard against it. Just don't say anything. For the most part, he's kept quiet lately, but he did say a couple things in the beginning. As far as I will also go on record to say that I have said this before. I said it on my draft show. I said it on other shows as well. I said it on my other channel. I said that Brock Bowers is the biggest matchup nightmare in the entire draft. That's what I said. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to figure out what is a likely next step. So we all know this. The most likely next step, okay? The most likely next step is um, guys. The most likely next step is John Gruden and his team file an appeal. That's the most likely next step, right? What happens after that, it all depends because look, the court can easily say, no, we already ruled on this. That's that. It's very possible that's what happens next. So Gruden and his team file an appeal, and the courts are just like, dude, just the I think it was the Supreme Court of Nevada, not Supreme Court, but like some superior court. Sorry, so the Superior Court of Nevada. Gruden and his team's like, dude, what the heck's going on here? This is some bullshit. Blah blah blah. We're gonna file this appeal on these grounds. The Superior Court of Nevada can just say, you know what, we already ruled on this, and our decision is final. If you want to pursue this matter any further, you got to take it up to a higher court, and then that's when you have to go from there. But that's still the most likely scenarios. Is that's what's going to happen next. Now, what happens after that? I don't know. I don't know what bylaws that the NFL is basically leaning on right now. I don't know what those are. I don't know what the basis of the ruling was. It was just basically the only thing that's come out right now as of 117, in the afternoon here in Long Beach, California, is that Gruden has to go through arbitration, and the lead arbitrator is going to be somebody that Roger Goodell appoints. So I think it would be different. And honestly, I don't think that eventually, eventually, I don't think that Gruden would oppose an independent, maybe a court appointed arbitrator. As of right now, I think he still thinks he has a shot, and I still think he has a shot too, of getting into a discovery phase. Again, if you guys have came in a little late, what Gruden and his team, what they want to do more than anything else is they want to get into the discovery phase because they want to know all these spider webs and tangles and all these little tentacles and all this stuff. How far did this reach? This conspiracy, how far did it reach? What I think personally happened was there was a huge issue with the Washington Redskins, Washington football team, Washington Commanders. There was a big issue with that organization from Daniel Snyder on down. Huge issue, a lot of cover up, a lot of embezzlement, a lot of pretty bad, pretty messed up stuff going on. That's what I think happened. Once that happens, okay, the feds got involved. It was the federal agents got involved in this. To keep everything quiet and to take attention away from that, Roger Goodell had to find a scapegoat. And he did in John Gruden. Now, I'm not trying to say that John Gruden is like an innocent bystander here. I'm not trying to say that. Do I think that John Gruden should have lost his job? I'm not a very big cancel culture guy. I'm just not. I speak freely. I want people to speak freely with me. I think that for his position, I think a suspension would have sufficed. That's what I think. would have been probably the best move is a long suspension. Hell, uh, you had stuff like what was it, Bounty Gate, where they were paying players illegally because this is outside of the realm of their pay. They were paying them illegally, the Saints were, to hurt other players in the NFL, and that got him a 1 year suspension. Okay, I don't know that this was in the grand scheme of football. Now, socially, okay, fine, I understand, but as far as the NFL goes, I don't know. I think it was just the culture at the time. Uh, but I think a 1 year suspension would have sufficed. So it's it was a big mistake. Number one, for John Gruden to joke around with his buddies in that fashion. It was also messed up for John Gruden to do it on a public server on emails. Like, it's just, you don't do that. If you want to, we all know, we all have conversations with people that we don't want to have made public. It doesn't have to be misogynistic, doesn't have to be racist, it doesn't have to be anything. There's just conversations that we have that just, you know, like one of my big peeves is like when someone's like, "Oh yeah, my chick, she's super cool, man. She's one of the guys." No, there is like disgusting, vile, just crude things that you would tell your friend that you could never say in front of a female, right? It's a lot of this, a big old messed up mess right now. Let's see what we got over here. Gary Fake, uh, big old huge trucks parked next to me here. Roger Goodell needs to be impeached. Period. Well, look, for what he's been hired to do, Roger Goodell is doing an excellent job. Roger Goodell is making money for the NFL and he's protecting the shield. That's what he's doing. So in from that perspective, I don't think he should be impeached because honestly, if we have an alternative, let's say we have an alternative. Let's say we have a commissioner who is not as good as making money, who is not as good as Goodell is protecting like the owners and stuff like that. Let's just say we can have a lot of radical changes to the NFL that we don't want. So it's one of those things where it's like, be careful what you wish for, because if we get a lot of outside legislature involved in the NFL, it could drastically change the game as we know it. So I don't have a problem with Roger Goodell as commissioner. I do have a problem with how things are being done in this case. I think that there could have been more things done to protect and kind of like push attention away from what Washington was doing. Because ultimately, Daniel Snyder was caught. He was caught hiding money from the rest of the owners. In that case, you have to kind of like, you have to chop off the pinky to save the hand, right? Which they ended up doing anyway, but they wanted to make sure that the attention wasn't on that and they try to move the attention towards something else. That's my big issue. Uh, Buff Daddy, saying something and being serious when you're saying something are two different things. No, I agree with that. I agree with that because I say some pretty messed up shit too. We all do. Okay. Look, I tell people all the time, like, okay, perfect example. There's somebody at the gym who was younger, I think like early 20s, right? and she was saying about, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say just certain, you can't say this, you can't say that, right? And I'm like, well, what about a phrase that I hear a lot of people your age use? You guys say big dick energy. Well, what's small dick energy? Like, why is it any dick energy, right? So you're saying certain things that maybe you shouldn't say, but because it's socially more acceptable to say that, it's okay to do it. We all have our things. Nobody's perfect, okay? But the issue is right now, it is not over. So not all hope is lost. I'm going to wrap up in a little bit, but the issue that we're seeing here is Gruden wasn't careful, and there was a time and place where a lot of the perfect storm came together, where there needed to be a smokescreen set up, and the smokescreen was John Gruden. Okay, right now, Gruden, if you guys just joined, the Superior Court in Nevada ruled that John Gruden must go through arbitration and cannot directly sue the NFL and Roger Goodell. That's what was ruled today. He does have appeals, and if the appeals don't work, he can then, appeal to a higher court. That's what's going to be more than likely the next step. Ultimately, this is not over. It's not over by a long shot, but it's another hurdle and another obstacle that Gruden and his team have to jump over. All right, guys, this is my time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, everyone. Tell your friends, tell your haters, tell your mamas, tell everybody the autumn windbags are the best thing going today. All right, guys. Love you all. I'll see you next time. Peace.